Ethos of Silence.
A veteran podcast aims to amplify the voices of veterans, creating a safe space for authentic conversations about their experiences, challenges, and triumphs. We seek to break the stigma surrounding mental health and foster community support, resilience, and understanding. Through storytelling, expert insights, and candid discussions, we strive to inspire healing, promote awareness, and empower veterans on their journeys.
Welcome.
Yeah, that or I don't know, like swords. I like the Forged in Fire series. And
The Art of Catapult, huh?
that's what it is.
How to build ballistic trebuchets and more ancient artillery.
Are you saying you want to get into that, or are you
Hell
talking
yeah.
about killing that one?
No.
Okay, we're not okay.
Let's get into this.
All right. Welcome back, guys. Ethos of Silence. I'm Kevin here, and I got my road dog with me, TJ.
There we go. KG switching it up a little bit.
I spun it up a little bit for you guys.
Little spin on the normal thing.
Yeah, welcome back. If you knew we were reading in the Warrior Ethos before, we were talking a lot about Alexander the Great and what made him become a great leader over time. And you could definitely aspire to understand from the reading about where he was from and what that might have been like. So
that's one of my favorite things is understanding warrior mindsets. That's like one of my favorite things is understanding like what thing kind of made that into this fucking elite warrior. How was Alexander even termed Alexander the Great? You know, like why him?
Yeah. So second to our King, Lord Jesus Christ, and what he did on this earth is the warrior, and he taught a lot of what warriors picked up with. But we happen to have this book fall in our lap. It's The Art of the Catapult. My son and I was building some trebuchets and some catapults, and not 2 feet from me was this book, contained all of the book that we're reading with the warrior ethos in it. And it contains some chapters, and I'd like to read a little bit to you. And it seems like some of this is things that we haven't covered.
Okay.
Alexander of Macedonia.
Okay.
In 336 BC, King Philip was killed, his father, under mysterious circumstances, and Alexander ascended to the throne of Macedonia. Alexander came into his own as a great leader and general. No leader has ever come close to accomplishing what Alexander, his armies, and his catapults accomplished. Within 12 years, Alexander conquered city after city, state after state. By the time he died just 13 years later, in 323 BC, Alexander's rule extended from Greece south to Egypt and east through Mesopotamia and Persia to as far as India. His kingdom included the area occupied by the present-day countries of Greece, Turkey, Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Israel, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and parts of India and the Balkans. If you could imagine nowadays who owns all that and what he did. It was still like that back then. It was a different battlefield, but he conquered all of that map.
Wow.
All of them. Turkey, Greece, Egypt, Iraq, Syria. These are great, big, huge countries.
What would lead a young man to be that ambitious?
I remember reading about it back then, but what was it? I don't know. It must be something historically in their ethos.
Not even that. I mean, of course he was raised, about all this stuff, and we read the story about him taming the horse and all the other different stuff. And I mean, he was raised with this military mindset. I got it. I wonder if it's something about who killed his father or the accusations of who killed his father and just a hell-bent path of revenge to where this young man who has such a detail-oriented thing is now on this course.
I think that's what it was. His father had fought the one of the Syrian or the Persian kings before, and then they locked it at it again. Like, hey, yeah, your father did this and that, mine did this, and your father sucks and mine, yours sucks. Okay. All right. You want to play that game? Let's go to battle, man. Let's go.
Macedonia.
On a big, obviously serious scale. So yeah, what made that whole streak just absolutely go down? I think he thirsted for it after that, and maybe he was just really so not a fanatic, but a really born leader that knew his men and became engulfed in that. That was his life then. What would he turn back from? That's the warrior that doesn't have to turn back. That's the soldier that doesn't have to turn back from what he is and what he does and go back to the world. He just lives it to the end of his life until he's done.
I got it, but
dying on the battlefield is glorious.
It is, but at what point, like, you can only rule over so much. Like,
what was he thinking?
What?
There wasn't anything.
What's the mindset? The mindset is just, I'm going to conquer the next one?
That's it. I mean, that's it. What's over the next hill? I have all my men with me. I have everything I need right here.
Would that be why Xerxes built up such a great army? He was trying to outdo what the legend of the Alexander was?
Mm. Yeah. His father was a great warrior, and his father beat Xerxes' father. And yeah, so he did it under threat of death and threat of torture, that if they didn't serve Xerxes, that would become of it. And that's a great motivation. It's not a leader, but it's a great motivation. And it's like you said, it's a revenge thing. He's wanting to get back. And he had already ascended to the throne, so these two were two forces that came together and clashed and obviously made history.
Made a book about trebuchets. All right.
Yeah, they did. Greece, Turkey, Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Syria. These are great, huge countries.
Mm-hmm.
Israel, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and parts of India.
Long way to be pushing a catapult.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right? Right. And that was it. They were so good at what they were doing. I mean, that was their job. Like, people have jobs. Like, their job. What is our job, Spartans?
Oh.
Oh.
Looks like I brought more warriors than you did, old friend.
Yeah. We'll let you get some later.
So let's get into a little bit of what the trebuchet is and what the tactics that the very beginning of the book was telling us about the artillery and the three phases of war.
Ah. Yeah. I'll finish this out.
Okay.
The area he ruled was nearly as great in size as all of modern Europe.
Yeah.
Massive. Certainly, Alexander made good use of the army originally created by his father.
Okay.
But he took the limits of Macedonian and Greek power to levels King Philip could never have imagined. All right, let's go back.
Macedonian and Greek powers.
All right. The Science of Siege.
The Science of Siege, Chapter 2.
From the earliest days of organized warfare, armies have always had three basic types of fighting units. Mm-hmm. These include first infantry units that consist of men on foot who attempt to advance and take land and position against enemy forces. Second, cavalry units consisting of faster moving, highly mobile combat groups support the infantry.
The Blitzkrieg.
In past times, the cavalry used horses to make them speedy and mobile. Today, the cavalry have given up horses for tanks.
Shitty Mongolian taking over my shitty wall.
Put them in the sardine tank. And that must have been something to be in the first tanks. Jeez. Everything exploding. And some armies today use something called air cavalry, or the equivalent of flying tanks, heavily armored helicopters. And last, there are artillery
Basically
units.
What y'all were using with the Apaches, so that when you get out of the sport and everything else, but they're able to move so much faster than a traditional tank.
Those flying tanks made everything worth running up through that country. At last, there are artillery units, groups of highly trained soldiers that set up and fire big guns to destroy fixed military targets, such as buildings and encampments. Modern artillery units are made up of howitzers, cannons, and rocket-firing batteries.
But you'd almost put the air wing now in the artillery category because it can reach out and touch somebody without being anywhere near, right? So whenever you laser designate a target or give me a GPS coordinate to drop a bomb on, and a Navy ship is now firing on it, it's considered artillery because it's coming off the naval vessel.
That's
Same thing whenever you're modernizing it and it's an aircraft, right?
Mm-hmm. Combination of
that's just
air cavalry tanks and precise artillery.
Well, the cavalry tank is there to like direct support for the ground troop, right? So like the Apache, because of the amount of weapons it carries on it, it can provide you that type of coverage and support that the same as a tank can, right? But like a traditional fixed wing aircraft, unless you're a KC-130, a flying fucking gunship, you can't really you can't provide that continuous support that would be required. Right, that a helicopter truly can because of the payload that they put on the helicopters.
That is an atrocious tank flying in the sky.
Yeah,
KC-130. Jeez.
Yeah, America,
baby. Jeez. Modern artillery units are made up of howitzers, cannons, and rocket-firing batteries. The artillery soldiers are different from the infantry and the cavalry. First of all, they are not particularly fast-moving or mobile. They go to a particular location, set up their guns, and then fire away. Second of all, they're especially effective against fixed targets. Buildings, bridges, gun emplacements, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Before the days of gunpowder and iron or steel cannon barrels, siege engines, catapults, were the artillery of the ancient armies. They were the primitive yet elegant equivalents of the cannons and howitzers used in modern armies. And like cannons, siege engines weren't very mobile compared with the infantry soldier or cavalry. In fact, the larger catapults, such as big trebuchets, would take weeks, sometimes even months, to assemble in place. They had a narrowly defined but very important job to do. They were used to break down the walls of castles in a siege. You made a big statement the other day about, or moments ago, about, Alexander the Great carrying those catapults through what's now equivalent to the entire continent of Europe.
Yeah.
Just dragging them across. How do you motivate soldiers to do that without water? You're Alexander the Great.
Well, how do you do it? You do it with, we were talking about the warrior ethos of telling us that they're chickens hiding behind the wall. We teach you about our God of fear, and
chickens hiding behind the wall.
We sacrifice the chickens to the God of fear, so our warriors don't have fear. And as soon as we take away their wall, we've now given them that fear. So by building this trebuchet, we take away their wall, taking away all their. It's the same as breaking the Felix. You know, like we just shattered all their hope. Their wall's gone. They're already in there starving to death because we've got their city surrounded, and they can't escape the city. So now we're just sitting here building this thing, and we'll. It doesn't matter if it takes us 2 months. If it takes 2 months, that means there's less of them in there because they're starting to starve, and then we'll just use the trebuchet and break down the wall.
You're taking all the resources they have off the land, all their pigs, all their livestock.
That's it.
Water,
it's all ours now. It's all ours now.
Yeah, that's
and you're hiding behind your big walls. Congratulations. Those big walls aren't going to stand up very long. It's like the I forget what battle it was, but they dig the tunnels underneath the walls, and then they blow up the wall from underground, so the wall just kind of concaves and falls in, and they walk into the fucking city.
Yeah. I don't remember what those were, but that was changing the warfare, and I can imagine what that was like. You lived in a city and a wall all your life, and you knew this Alexander the Great army was headed your way.
Well, you're this king over this kingdom, and you're like, well, if somebody comes, at least I've got these walls to protect me, you know, and it helps you from the little heathens that are whatever, and you know, eventually you get tired of banging on the wall and they go away.
You figured,
but
then you find out.
then
at
you
the
find
last
out
moment, the
there's
walls
this
have
Alexander the Great who's
actually
got this
imprisoned
thing
you.
that fucking destroys walls, and he'll sit there with his army and imprison you in your own city. What are you going to do? Send a carrier pigeon to tell the king across the way to come and help you?
They would have to do something or try and negotiate with the great king, the great Alexander the Great.
I bet those were some interesting
They gave their daughters
negotiations.
away for those, and their lands, their whatever it was fought for.
Mm-hmm.
The Ark of the Covenant, whatever they had. So, this kind of goes into a little bit more about warfare in the ancient times.
Okay.
And it starts talking about some of the military actions that they were using back then, according to this. So, warfare in ancient times, there were two broad kinds of military action during the age of catapults: the pitched battle and the siege. A pitched battle is just what it sounds like. Soldiers on a battlefield, running, using their weapons, accomplishing specific objectives, hopefully under the direction of their commanding officer, if he ain't been killed yet. If they were successful, they would gain territory and advantage, and in the end process, defeat the opposing army. That's a good point. If their commanding officer was still giving direction. So if you lost direction on the field, that would, the siege is over almost.
Well, I mean, the battle's over.
over.
Like, you no longer have somebody giving you tactical direction.
The objective's lost.
So once again, there's no objective. You know, the objective becomes survival, and whenever everybody's individually trying to survive instead of surviving as a group and working together to see the direction you need to push.
That's what made the Romans quite a thing to photocopy off of, because when their leader was gone, there were lieutenants, and those were those that would still lead the soldiers, and they were so trained
because they were trained to become the leaders
100%.
of the regiments. Yes,
100%. So,
but that goes into the Romans with them thinking that everybody else was a barbarian.
Oh yeah, every one of them was, and they trained and told them that, you know, we're going into a country. If you are well trained, and if you don't do what you're supposed to, you will become
Rome
this to them.
Rome never actually fell. Rome got consolidated.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Just making sure you and me are on the same page there.
Yeah. We live in Roman times now.
Cool.
Now it was and then truthfully, it goes back during the Roman times. Previous to that was one of the most significant thing to happen, and that was the life and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. A lot of things changed during those times. So if they were successful, they would gain territory and advantage, and in process defeat the opposing army.
Yeah.
Certainly, ancient warfare was tough and brutal. Hand-to-hand combat, frontal assaults, skirmishings. These were the simple tactics employed in pitched battles.
Okay.
From the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC, continuing through the time of the Roman Empire, and into the Middle Ages. Many of these tactics of ancient warfare are still used in warfare today.
Well, yeah.
Yep. It's definitely
I mean, it's the same
regiment.
basis. You just upgraded them, like I was telling you, aircrafts being this and that and the other. Yeah.
Yep. We've not changed much. The Bible says it too. There's nothing new underneath the sun, even to today. During classical times, the time of the ancient Greeks and Romans, and medieval times as now, the soldiers used a variety of weapons in pitched battle. In those days, armies used spears, pikes, swords, daggers, slings, and stones, battle axes, clubs, bows, and arrows. The other basic type of military action besides the pitched battle was the siege. The siege. When one side had a big advantage over the other side in terms of manpower or equipment, the other side could wisely choose to not meet the enemy on the field of battle, but instead retreat to the safety of walled city, fortress, or castle. Here, within thick protective fortress walls made of limestone, sandstone, or flint, the defenders could hole up for months, and depending on the supply of food and water within, perhaps outlast the enemy encamped beyond the walls. A castle was more than just a place of refuge. It was also the residence of a nobleman, a home base for an army, a headquarters of the area's commerce and industry, and the highest, strongest place around to beat off an attacker. Castle walls, several feet thick, made of solid stone, with several different layers of architectural protection, such as walls, towers, and moats. That's a good point.
How in the hell did they build these fucking things?
That's a good point. I was just thinking of that. These stones and these layers. And
they said several feet thick
of stone.
How the hell did they build these things?
And stone.
Yeah.
Well, the masons would set up different leverage points with wood and lifting points. You could leverage a stone up to one point and up to another. A very time-consuming job. One stone on top of the other. The mason cut it. The riggers would rig it and lift it up, and then of course the masons would set it. But man, these things were meant to last, and I guess according to how they built, and according to how they were prepared in those times for a battle, did they take everything off the land and harvest it and bring it into the castle, where the opposing army couldn't find anything. If you think back, a lot of the armies would burn their fucking fields.
On the way in, yeah.
On the way in, burn their fields, kill all the cattle, drag them in with them, and they would, the less that they left.
Because you did leave provisions within the city walls in case. Yeah. But.
Well, that's what perhaps Alexander the Great had in mind, because no one expected him to keep going further. So no one was prepared, and he surprised them. So that was the whole strategy in the battle before. If you could have gotten a surprise attack on somebody,
same way that the Germans were able to take over so much land with the Blitzkrieg,
absolutely,
and everything else, right?
Absolutely.
And Great Britain was just lucky there was a fucking ocean between them and mainland Europe.
Oh gosh, they were lucky. They were lucky,
right? And that's literally why Great Britain was there for us to land the beaches with the Brits and the Canadians.
He had planned for that, the ocean. I mean, he had sent how many bombs he sent in planes that Hitler sent.
No.
They were meant to be just desecrated, but he couldn't get them.
I mean, you look at the scenes of the beaches that we attacked. I mean, he knew that was the only option, the only way to come. I mean, it was heavily fucking fortified.
Yeah. I just wonder when they started building those basements and bomb shelters in preparation for that. I don't think there was anything involved in World War I where he was sending. There wasn't. He wasn't sending great numbers of planes to bomb Britain. So this would have to have been
after
sellers, or I don't know. There were lots of men and women dying to keep building up on their bomb shelters. Something to get into, though. Something to look into a little further. I mean, it's all the art and the studies and what Churchill may have known or didn't know in his highest education, or whether he took from other generals, or maybe he stayed up every single night researching what was going on and how to stop the bleeding. But yeah, so whether you lived or died was a day-to-day thing, and how you reacted to the surprise of an army attacking you, how you fortified your place, walls thick, and all of that nature. But it says that it was hard to capture a castle, but if that's what the military leaders needed to do, armies would try to do it. The attackers could either try to wait out the defenders,
okay,
and force them to surrender by starving them,
sure,
or they could lay siege to the castle. If you visit a castle today, such as Stirling Castle in Scotland, sounds like an Ethos of Silence trip. Chateau Gaillard in France, or Crac des Chevaliers, I'm butchering that word. Crac des Chevaliers in Syria. Somebody correct me on that one. I'm just killing that one. The graceful walls sitting atop a towering hill might give you an impression that a castle was designed for a simple strategy of passive defense, a place of safety where the defenders would hunker behind walls and simply try to outlast the attacking army. That's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, but no.
Wasn't the case. It says
No
certainly
way.
the castle was designed and sited to make it as difficult to conquer for unfriendly armies as possible. But beyond that, castles were designed with entry and exit doors called sally ports, so that the defenders within could come and go unseen and secretly to engage the enemy and then quickly retreat back into safety of the castle. Perhaps most important, since the castle controlled the high ground, the archers and spearmen within the castles could confidently prevent the movement of enemy troops on the roads and pathways that it overlooked.
Yeah.
And there's a couple pictures showing some of these protective walls.
Yeah, what the high ground is and everything else. But once again, if you...
Shutters that opened and closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were preparation.
The arrow slits. So
the arrow slits look like a cross.
The inside is... the outside of it is narrower, so it's narrower from the outside to shoot in. But from the inside, it's wider, so you've got a larger area of fire, the same as bunkers.
Yeah.
With the bunker windows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Using arrow slits.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. There was
unique design.
Yeah, there was a lot involved with the science of the siege. Yeah, I do want to say that a lot of this is lost on us, but it's still the same. Still very much the same. Where we at?
I wonder how much of this Robert had to study in the academies of war.
Good question.
He went through.
Good question.
If it was a quick overview or if it was a deep insight into...
I just imagine how much I would like to have gone to one of these. It seems like I could have just dropped out of school and sent me to this.
I mean, some of the old forts around here are built that way. Built like a castle.
I got some contacts in Fort Jackson down in the south side of Louisiana. Maybe we go have a podcast right there.
Maybe.
Call the old VFW buddy up. Well,
yeah, we're good.
Yeah?
Gives us a good little insight into what they're talking about here. And then obviously we get some insight into some different warriors that have used the trebuchets and the catapults and how they used them a little bit and different stuff like that. It'll be interesting. Be fun to jump into. It's also fun to think about how our current military still utilizes things that are the same military tactics that were used by these armies way back in time. You know, Alexander the Great, for example. You know,
I think we'll jump back into this. But
makes me wonder if the Spartans ever used anything that
who were
advanced their army at all, or were they always just the very, very simple of using the sword and the shield? And it's like, once again, we're this amazing race, but we're gonna go off and be the samurai, and we're gonna die by the ninja because we don't adapt, and we just declare the fact that you're cowards. But we are lost to the pages of history because we didn't evolve.
That's a very deep thought. Evolution. You evolve with the times, or you're truly going to meet your end.
That's it. You either accept technology or you become the old man reading the newspaper. Nothing wrong with being the old man reading the newspaper.
And there's nothing wrong with meeting your end either.
Until you're the only guy keeping the newspaper company open.
Get welcomed into the kingdom of heaven.
I hear you,
mansion
brother.
is prepared for me.
Got any final insights?
No. Check on your battle buddies. Love yourself. Love one another.
All right, buddy. Iron sharpens iron. Help us become the resource that everybody's looking for. If we don't help each other, we went wrong somewhere. That's for damn sure.
Thank you for being with us, guys.
Ethos of Silence.
Enjoyed it.
We're out.
If you need more information on veterans benefits, please visit our website at VFWPost4224.org. That's Victor Foxtrot Whiskey, post4224.org. All of our contact information is in the description of the video. Please email us if you have any questions. We now have a moment of silent prayer for those still in the battle, for our departed comrades, for those missing in action, and for those held as prisoners of war.